Hello, I'm Susan Path, the parish nurse at St. Philip the Deacon Lutheran Church here in Plymouth, Minnesota. Welcome back to St. Philip for our third and final session of our 2021 Restore 3 series, Growth, Benefits, and Healing from Exploring Your Story. Last week, Dr. Kristin Bransford introduced us to Dr. James Pennebaker's research on expressive writing and using expressive writing as a tool to explore our story. I introduced the practice of lament to you. How many of you have started on your writing journey? Raise your right hand. Oh, great. I see so many of you. Thousands of you have started. That is great. I know, I made that up. But anyway, I hope many of you have started. Otherwise, Chris and I cannot wait to hear about your experiences and progress using the 2 tools that we brought you last week. You can send your comments and experiences to both Chris and I directly to my email, which is at spath@spdlc.org. And I will have that in our notes when I send that out to the Restore series people that have registered. If you have not begun your story or lamenting, have no fear. Dr. Bransford is presenting another valuable tool today that may help find beneficial, you might find helpful and beneficial implementing as the week goes on. The tool is from Positive Psychology, and it is benefit finding. Chris Bransford is Emeritus Professor of Psychology at Concordia University and has been a faculty member at Concordia University in St. Paul since 1999. She taught a variety of courses in the Department of Psychology, including Positive Psychology, and co-leads a faculty learning community focusing on the principles of positive psychology. Say that quite a few times fast. Her scholarly interests include faculty learning communities, positive psychology, and engaged learning strategies in higher education, and has presented at numerous local, national conferences on these topics. She and her family have been members at St. Philip for 27 years, and she loves being a part of Miriam's Circle, and as we love to have you too, Chris. Once again, we welcome Dr. Chris Bransford.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Susan, for inviting me to share again tonight. I am so excited to share another writing exercise with you tonight that I hope will be as transformative as it has been for me. I hope you had a chance to try Dr. Pennebaker's expressive writing process. If not, that's okay. You can try it this week or maybe another week. As I mentioned last week, Dr. Pennebaker emphasizes the importance of creating a ritual for writing. This ritual will create a writing environment that supports you, makes you feel safe, makes you feel comfortable so that you can be honest, open, and willing to share your deepest feelings and thoughts. Dr. Pennebaker also emphasized the importance of taking time after each writing session to reflect on your emotions and give yourself some self-compassion. Creating a ritual can be with lighting, such as a candle, meditations or prayer, having your favorite blanket with you. I would like to start tonight with a meditation that you may already be using, but one that I find very beneficial. This is the loving kindness meditation. We will read number 1, 2, and number 5 together out loud. Insert your name or say I for number 1. Insert your friend's name for number 2. And say all people or everyone for number 5. We'll skip the other ones. So in other words, we're going to be saying it 3 times. This is very powerful to hear when we're all together. So let's pretend that we're all hearing hundreds of voices saying this meditation together. So when I count to 3, let's say this together. May I live in safety. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Now say a friend's name. May Susan live in safety. May Susan be healthy. May Susan live with ease. Now say all people or everyone. May everyone live in safety. May everyone be happy. May everyone live with ease. Again, this is a loving kindness meditation that I find really beneficial, and one that you can do before writing, or one you can do after each writing session from Dr. Pennebaker. One thing I want to mention, that you'll notice that after I have may I be happy, in parentheses it says have a sense of well-being. I just wanted to let you know that well-being and happiness are used synonymously. I like the word well-being, and I'll be talking about that in just a moment. So what will I be sharing with you today? We're going to quickly review some suggestions from Dr. Pennebaker after you do your writing session. We'll understand the focus of positive psychology interventions. We'll understand the benefit-finding writing process and how it might be helpful for you, and I'll share how it was helpful for me. And we're also going to understand how the positive psychology exercise of savoring can enhance benefit finding. So, from Dr. Pennebaker's research, he provided these guidelines to help us look at our writing after we have done the 4 days of writing. Now, I want to really emphasize some things before we go through these guidelines. Whatever you wrote is important. Whatever you wrote is a message for you to learn. Whatever you wrote is for you to create meaning. So even though these are guidelines, what you wrote has meaning for you. And don't worry if you didn't touch all these guidelines. This is just something for you to think about in future writings. And they'll just enhance your meaning making the next time you try Dr. Pennebaker's enhanced writing process. So, the first one is negative emotions in our writing needs to be acknowledged. It's really important, and that's why you're doing this expressive writing, so that you can really think about the deep feelings and emotions from that negative experience. But you don't want to ruminate about those negative emotions. If we ruminate and keep going over and over and over in our writings about the negatives, we can get stuck in that negativity. It needs to be acknowledged, though. So with meaning-making interventions, which Dr. Pennebaker's expressive writing is, it's bringing significance to one's events that happened. So Dr. Pennebaker emphasizes that you receive more benefits from expressive writing if you can use some positives as well as negative emotions. So it's important to acknowledge the negatives, as I said, and look at the possible positives. So both. Again, remember, whatever you wrote is fine. This is just for future writings that might enhance the benefits. The next thing he said is that we need stories to understand the events that happen to us. So what's critical is that we need to actively construct a coherent story around the emotional upheaval, and that's what's really important. So the greatest benefits come when we're actively trying to understand that event through our writing, actively opening up to our deepest emotions and thoughts. We're actively trying to make sense of an event that we don't understand. And then the third thing that he asked us to look at in our writings is changes in pronouns. Changes in pronouns indicate changes in perspectives. And as I mentioned last week, it's important to look at the emotional upheaval, the negative event, from many perspectives. This helps us create more coherence in our story. It helps us make coherence in the negative event. So these are just some of his guidelines that might be helpful for you to go back and look at your 4 days of writing and see how you've changed, see how your stories changed over those 4 days. Again, what I want to emphasize the most is whatever you wrote is important to you. Whatever you wrote has an important message to you. These guidelines may only enhance your further writings. Okay, so now what I want to do is transition to benefit finding, which is a positive psychology intervention. One of many, by the way. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know just a little bit about what is positive psychology. Positive psychology is a discipline in psychology. It's a fairly new discipline. Positive psychology is a scientific study. Researchers study strengths and human flourishing, how strengths can help empower individuals and communities to thrive. Now, this is really important. The goal of positive psychology is not to be happy all the time. I don't know about you, but I'd be exhausted if I had to be happy all the time. It's not practical to be happy all the time. There is evidence that eliminating negative emotions is an undesirable outcome in one's life. It's really important to feel all our basic emotions: sadness, happiness, surprise, anger, fear. I want to feel fear. So when I'm cross-country skiing, I don't go down a hill that's way beyond my level of expertise. I want to feel that fear, so I take a different path. So again, all our emotions are important. So with positive psychology and then the interventions or exercises that have been developed from research, the goal is to shift the balance so that one's positive experiences outweigh one's negative experiences. Not eliminate one's negative experiences, but shift that balance so that we can flourish, so that we can experience well-being. It's developed to promote positivity in people's lives and to cope with negative events and emotions that we might experience. I included the researcher Seligman that you'll see here because he's considered sort of the father of positive psychology. There are multiple positive psychology interventions. We're just going to cover two: benefit finding and savoring. We all find different exercises to be meaningful. So not every positive psychology intervention will affect everyone in the same way. So you might find benefit finding something you enjoy, you might find savoring something you enjoy, or you might not, and that's okay. Benefit finding might be more effective for some stressors that you're dealing with, better than other stressors. So again, keep practicing it with different events because you might find more effectiveness with some over others. Many of us are currently dealing with stressors. There's a lot going on right now. We've been dealing with stressors this past year and in the past years. These stressors can be both daily hassles, the little things that happen, and our major life events. Benefit finding can help us cope with these daily hassles, stressors, by thinking about the possible positive aspects or meaning that occurred from these stressors. This is also a meaning-making intervention like Dr. Pennebaker's, and it can be an important way to cope with negative life events, so some of the bigger life events. So in this exercise, we search for uplifting meaning from a threatening negative experience. We're looking for the possible silver lining in the adversity. And what I want you to really think about, and I'll talk about in a little more detail, it is a potential process for growth. When we discover the possible benefits, we find that it's easier to cope. We may even be able to find unexpected opportunities. From the research and benefit finding, these are some of the things that people have found. We may have a change in our values. We may have a change in religious views. We may have a change in relationships. We may learn new health behaviors. They've done a lot of research with health. We may have growth in our character. These are just some of the few that I highlighted. The other thing that I wanted to make a connection is the relationship between benefit finding and gratitude. So gratitude is a positive emotional state. When we feel gratitude, we feel positive. And it's an emotional state in which one recognizes and appreciates what one has received in life. So gratitude relates to the capacity to appreciate and savor. So I want you to think about that, savor events and experiences. And we're going to talk about savoring with benefit finding in a little bit. So what's important is the process of benefit finding is an example of gratitude. So we can experience gratitude when we do the benefit finding exercise. And that's been really powerful for me when I've done it. So I'm going to take you through the exercise. And this is, it's a pretty easy exercise. And so I want you to just sort of think about it now so that you'll be able to try it next week. Think of a negative stressor or event that is occurring now or has occurred in the past. This stressor should be something that you are comfortable thinking about and writing about. Now, this might surprise you, but you want to think briefly about the situation or experience for only 1 minute. Now, the writing part is where you spend your focus. For 10 minutes, you're going to write about all the positive aspects from this experience. You're going to really search your mind for the benefits of the negative situation you chose. You're going to think about all the possible reasons why you might be grateful, the meaning you gain for why this event occurred in your life. Sometimes that's hard, and sometimes that's easy, depending on the event. And many times, there's multiple layers of benefits. This is something that I think is really important to remember. Being a benefit finder doesn't mean you are always happy with the event that occurred. The one that I'm going to share with you, I wasn't happy that the event occurred at all. But is trying to find a silver lining to learn from the event. Trying to find some meaning from the event. Trying to see how you've grown or changed from the event. You may be grateful that you had this experience, or you may be better off physically or mentally than before. So I'm going to share my writing with you. And this is about my dad's death and benefit finding. I was blessed to be able to take care of my dad while he was in-home hospice last spring. My dad went into the doctor's office for congestive heart failure. It was just a checkup, only to find out he had stage 4 prostate cancer. In-home hospice came very quickly and very unexpectedly. It was a blessing to be with him during COVID, and I was grateful, and I will always be grateful to have been with him during that time. I decided to complete the benefit finding exercise because that spring was such a blur. We weren't allowed to have a funeral during COVID. I was teaching full-time, plus taking care of him. And I wanted to write because I really missed him. As I said, I was teaching full-time online, and I had never taught online before, so that was stressful. I want to keep saying, it was a blessing to be with him, but it was also stressful, as you can imagine. I knew there was more to the story, and I wanted to learn, so that's why I did this benefit finding. I was blessed to be trained by Susan to be a peer minister several years before I went to be with my mom and dad. Luckily, my parents' church also does peer ministry, so their pastor dropped off what we needed for communion. From my writing, I was able to savor the beautiful moments of communion with my dad and other immediate family members. I was able to remember him whispering the Lord's Prayer with us. I'd forgotten these details with all the busyness of caretaking. What a blessing I got from writing. The day he died, I didn't know, obviously, at the time. My mom found his baptism booklet with prayers and people who attended. From my writing, I remembered that he wasn't talking, so I decided to read the baptism pamphlet. I felt very close to my dad and God during those moments. Closer than I ever had before. If I hadn't written, I wouldn't have been able to savor some of those cherished moments. I realized how my faith grew during that blessed but stressful caretaking time. I want to always remember that time and how my faith grew. That is the blessing of benefit finding. So again, the process of benefit finding is an example of gratitude. I'm so grateful that I wrote that. I'll always be able to keep it. Gratitude relates to the capacity to appreciate and savor events and experiences. I can savor that writing. I can savor the cherished moments. I can savor how I've grown in my faith. So benefit finding and savoring, I want you to make that connection. So creating meaning and positive emotions through benefit finding helps to rebuild a person's outlook and may create additional new resources. Savoring involves thoughts or actions that are aimed at appreciating and perhaps amplifying a positive experience. With savoring, you're being in the moment for life's positive experiences and appreciating those experiences. Savoring is enabled by 3 preconditions: eliminating your own concerns, attending to the present, and being aware of the positive aspects of the experience. So while you're writing, practice savoring. Try not to think about your to-do list, which I know is really hard. Don't think about your other stressors, which again is really hard. Think about the event you're writing about so that you really can think about the positives that have occurred, the growth that you've learned. In order to make savoring more likely, these researchers recommend taking time out of your everyday activities to savor, becoming more open to experiences that could potentially be savored. Anything can be savored. Attempting to narrow one's focus to the positive, pleasurable aspects of an experience. When you're driving in a car, put on your favorite music. You can savor that. I love to practice savoring while I'm walking. I take photos of something that I find beautiful. When it's cold, I focus on the sun and savor that. When it's cold and there's no sun, I try to focus on how I'm getting warmer the faster I'm walking. It's going to be really cold, so I'm going to have to practice savoring being on the treadmill, and that's going to take some practice. So practice the art of savoring each day by enjoying 1 or 2 experiences and truly savor these experiences. This could be eating a delicious meal, walking outside, drinking a warm cup of tea. Go back and read your benefit finding, writing, and savor the benefits, the meaning, the gratitude you experienced from the benefit-finding exercise, or any experiences that you enjoy. The other thing I do that I wanted to share is I often pray while I'm walking, and that's a savoring experience for me. I often do my gratitudes while I'm walking, and that's a savoring experience for me. I think I already mentioned this, but I'll just say it again. I often look at the photos that I take while I'm walking, and that's a savoring experience for me. But I also have to admit, I have to practice savoring, because we can often look at the negatives when we're tired, when we're stressed, when we're crabby. And so I have to remind myself to savor. I have to practice this so it becomes a habit. So practice with me, and let's try to savor more. These are common techniques that will enhance your savoring. Sharing the experience with another person. Thinking about how lucky you are to enjoy such an amazing experience, that gratitude. Keeping a souvenir or photo of the activity. making sure you stay in the present moment during the entire experience and not think about your concerns or stressors. And I said before, I know that's really hard. If you start thinking about your concerns or your stressors, tell yourself that's okay. And then stop, and then practice staying in the moment again. Keep doing that. And if you keep practicing that, slowly you learn how to stay in the moment. But it is, again, something that you have to keep practicing. I still need to practice this all the time. And this is something I've been teaching my students for years, and I still need to practice. Being aware of all the positive aspects of the experience, and keep reminding yourself what's positive about this experience. And deeply absorb yourself in the experience by paying attention to the temperature, the taste, the textures, the sights, the smells. And again, I love doing that when I'm walking outside. Nature makes it easy for me to savor. And that's why I love walking outside. I want to go back to where I started, and that's the loving kindness meditation. So while I'm reading this, I want us to practice savoring. As I read the meditation, savor the words. Really try to be in the moment. Feel the calmness of the words. Feel yourself relax. Feel yourself slowly breathing. Feel yourself relaxing. Feel your muscles relaxing. May you live in safety. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. May you find benefit finding and savoring an effective tool to help you grow and find meaning and find benefit. Thank you for letting me share tonight. When I share, I learn, and for that I am very grateful. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Bransford. Well presented, my friend. That was difficult for you, I know. Another valuable tool to explore our stories or to use on a daily basis. Stand up and give yourself a stretch if you think you can put this tool into practice. Perfect. I see all of you standing up and stretching, getting some blood flowing in you. Move around a little bit and get that blood moving. Our next tool is, through exploring your story, is a paper crane. Actually, this last tool, we're happy to say, is our Valentine's gift to you. So happy Valentine's week, because it is Valentine's week. Our next tool of healing through exploring your story is the paper crane. And why would I choose a paper crane? Signs and symbols in art have fascinated me for years as an art adventure guide at MIA, as it's now called, the Minneapolis Institute of Art. I enjoyed exploring the artworks with the secret signs and symbols in them that the artists would drop in their artworks just to say a special message to people who could decipher them. That was always fun to do with the students. The Japanese word origami is a combination of two Japanese words. Ori means to fold, and kami means paper. It is believed that Japanese origami began in the 6th century, and because of the high costs of paper, which is the opposite of what we think today, origami was used only for religious ceremonies in Japan. The crane is a mystical creature and is believed to live for 1,000 years. As a result of the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean culture, the crane represents good fortune and longevity. The Japanese referred to the crane as the bird of happiness. The wings of the crane were believed to carry souls up to paradise. Traditionally, it was believed that if one folded 1,000 origami cranes, one wish would come true. It has also become a symbol of hope and healing during challenging times. This is why I chose it for 2021 after 2022, to bring us some hope and healing during challenging times. As a result of that belief, it became popular to fold 1,000 cranes in Japan, and the cranes have become strung together on strings, usually 25 strings of 40 cranes each, and they're given as gifts. A famous story about these strung along paper cranes is that Saduko Sadaki, from the book Sadoko, the 1,000 Paper Cranes, she was a little girl, 2 years old, when she was exposed to radiation from the atomic bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima. Although she survived the bomb, she was diagnosed with leukemia at age of 10. Sadako loved to run and dreamed of running when she could no longer run. Her best friend brought her a golden paper crane for her in her hospital room. Sadako decided then to fold 1,000 cranes, hoping that her wishes to live would come true, that folding 1,000 cranes would give her hope and healing. Unfortunately, she was unable to fold. She only folded 644 cranes before she passed away. Her classmates then continued on her project, and in her honor, they folded cranes, and she was buried with a wreath of 1,000 cranes to honor her dream. There's now a statue in honor of Sadako in Hiroshima Peace Park. That's a picture of her. Here's her statue in the Hiroshima Peace Park. A little girl standing with her hands outstretched, holding a paper crane. Every year, thousands of wreaths of paper cranes are draped over her. Now there are over 70 peace sculptures throughout the world, inspired by the children of Hiroshima and Sadako. In fact, I just found out last night from Ruth Moen, one of our members, that Minneapolis has our own peace sculpture inspired by Sadako, which may prove to be very helpful to us. The Spirit of Peace, it's called. This bronze sculpture by local artist Caprice Glazer was dedicated way back in 2006, and it is official international peace site. The sculpture illustrates the folding of a peace crane, and you can see it here in this little picture I have, but barely. That whole sculpture, each one is a different one of the folds that you must do to make a crane. The information plaques atop the stones around the walking path show how to make a peace crane. The word peace is engraved at the base of the stones in 23 languages. This sculpture represents the international tradition of Sadako, told by a Japanese legend that people who fold 1,000 cranes will be granted a wish, and honoring our little Sadako. This is located in the Japanese garden across from the Rose Garden at Lake Harriet, Minneapolis. I'll have to take a closer look at it. I've only seen it from a distance when walking through the park, not realizing even it was there until Ruth pointed it out to me last night. I wonder if a healing field trip for all of us to look forward to is in the future, and possibly folding a crane there, looking at their instructions. Well, the time has come for us here to use the beautiful hand movements to loving, fold our healing cranes of hope. As with knitting, writing, crocheting, walking, petting your cat or dog, maybe washing dishes or taking apart a machine or doing calligraphy, folding a crane can be meditative and healing. Folding 1,000 cranes would be a beautiful sight. Let's go. I have this beautiful book by my friend Cheryl Dulas. Who has Japanese ancestry. Let's go on and fold. Hello, we are now folding our cranes, and hopefully we'll end up with maybe 1,000 cranes, but it's not always easy, but you may have to do it a couple of times to try it. These are the cranes that we're ending up with. These are a couple of the ones that I have done in the past few days, and they are really fun, and they do become meditative as you do them. So we're going to be using Cheryl Dulas's book of steps to folding an origami piece crane, and we will begin. So now we'll start to fold with the crane. You should have a 10 by 10 piece of paper from by door A in the box, or this is a regular origami where it's printed on one side and it's plain on the other side. So you will find a square piece of paper, and if you have written your story on it, that's great. That can be on your printed side if you want it out. If you want it inside, it would be on the plain side, considered your plain side of the folding. So we'll be using the book that is by Folding a Crane of Origami Piece Crane by Cheryl Dulas, and we'll start with step 1. You lay the paper flat on the table with the color side up, folding the paper diagonally like it's a diaper. If you've ever done cloth diapers, which I did with my children, I know most people probably don't do that nowadays. I'm using a boning tool. This boning tool helps to make the creases much more sharp. You can use anything you can that makes it a little sharper if you would like. So there's our diaper fold. Our next part will be, again, to unfold the paper. And you'll be doing this a lot, folding and unfolding the paper. Keep the color side up. Fold the paper along the other diagonal line. So bring the corners together. Make sure your corners always match, especially at the edge. And I'm using my boning tool, and what's nice is I have glass here, it makes it even sharper. Step 3 is, again, unfold the paper. Now this is the part where I kind of have to look at it. You'll turn the paper over so the color side is down, fold the paper in half lengthwise. So my color side is down, fold it lengthwise. And that's really important to know which side your color is on so that you don't mess up your sides, or your X to mark which side is your up side. I consider that my X side, my colored side. Okay, so then we're folded in half here. Unfold the paper again. Fold the paper in half lengthwise, the other way shown. And I think that you have to keep that color side up with this. And when you're doing it, your fold will be at the top and your open area will be at the bottom. Hold the folded paper between the right side and the left side. And I'll sneak this in here quick. She has a little dot here. Okay, so hold the paper between the thumb and pointer fingers and bring them diagonal folds together. So then you have what they call a tulip or a flower here. So you have 4 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4. Flatten out the paper and make sure that 2 of the petals are on each side of the paper. And then lay it flat. This is the finished step. There are other ways to get to this point, but this is probably the easiest. Fold the petal at the midline then. So in this one, make sure that your open end is at the bottom. And I have made that mistake before where my open end isn't at the bottom. So make sure your open end's at the bottom, not at the top. So you fold all 3 of the petals in like a kite, using your boning tool here to make that, I'm kind of a little not perfect there. Do it again on this side so you have your little kite. And then on the back side you do it also. I kind of wish this was a cooking show instead of doing the origami, because then I could eat. Okay, there we go. There's our kite. I have a little bit of a, hopefully that won't present a problem. But the open end, again, is down here at the bottom. So we should have our open end at the bottom there. Make sure to correct end is at the point, and unfold each petal again. So we unfold them each. And then, this is the hard part, you grab here at the bottom. If you want to look at Cheryl's book, you lift only the top flake. You put your pointer fingers here where the dots are, see where the dots are, and then you gently lift only the top layer as far as you can go without tearing the paper. Like you're making a mouth here. And it seems kind of difficult at first, but it does work. So what you want is to end up like that, like she has it here. Sorry, this paper is a little bit thinner than I'm used to, but there, you get to that other spot. Sorry, I have my little, and again, you use your boning tool to make it flat again and make out my, so that's kind of tough, but then you have to do it again on the back side. Where you pull it out. And this is where it could tear. It's the toughest part of making the crane. But once you get past this, you'll be doing great. There. So you returned it over and repeated it on the other side, right? So the next one is step 10. You fold the flap to the midline and make sure your slit is down here. So you see my slits are here. So you fold your outside flap to the midline. Use your boning tool, make it flat. And the other side, make it flat. Turn it over and fold the other two flaps. You never knew a crane had so much anatomy to it, did you? And I know Ruth Moen said that you can make these at the Peace statue site in at Lake Harriet. So again, we have another kind of a kite. The slit is again on the bottom here, and it's the same on both sides. So we did both of those in. Now step 11 is to take the flaps on the right and move it to the left. So this flap on the right, so you meet, as she has in this picture, there's two colored dots. You meet the two colored dots together, turn over and do that also on the other side. Like this. Do you see that? Then you turn up the neck. So we have a neck right here. You fold the neck up, and you'll have to stop because there is a spot right here where you can't move it any further. And fold it. Can you imagine doing 1,000 of these? And then you flip the head down on the top. Do you see that? And my first one, I had a really big head because I have a large nose, I think. I just went for the larger head. There. So there's our head and our neck. So it's starting to take form. It's starting to look like one, isn't it? Do you see that? Okay, now turn the paper over and repeat it with the tail. So you pull these two in like that for the tail, bring the two dots together as she has these as two dots. So it'd be like I would have two dots here, and I put them together. And then there's two small dots. Oh. So you turn it over, make your fold, bring the two dots together. You make a fold down for your neck and bring two dots together. And then you have your crane. So here's my crane. I will kind of mess with it a little bit. Pull this out. And if you can, you gently blow air into the bottom of it. And that can bring it out. Mine has a little crooked tail there. So there it is. There's your crane. And if you blow it out, then you can make these come down a little bit as well. Mine don't usually sit as well if I blow that out. But also when you start to string them, then you will use them differently. I think you'll string them through here. So that's how you make a paper crane. I will include these directions for you. So we finished folding our cranes for the first time. Keep practicing. They will be beautiful, and you will enjoy it, and it will be meditative as you go forward. So when you've completed your story, you too can copy it on a square piece of paper and fold a crane or many cranes. I'd love for you to email me a crane or mail me a crane with your story folded into it, or a few words of your story, or one word that you may focus on this year as part of your story. I've included a one-word devotion practice from Pastor Matheson, Pastor Strand Patterson, and Amanda Berger in the email this week, if that's your preferred route. So you have 3 different ways that you could write on your crane. And then please send it in to me at St. Philip the Deacon, and I will include that address in the email this week. What will we do with that story crane once I receive it? Well, we'll string them together, as is traditional in Japanese culture, and display them here at St. Philip, and we'd love to take them to the Lake Harriet, to the Peace Garden at some point too, and wrap the Spirit of Peace sculpture and rest a short while there and maybe meditate, or maybe we'll make another crane. I'll be looking into this little field trip, and I'll keep you posted on it. In the meantime, you can help by volunteering to make more cranes. To reach 1,000 cranes would be amazing, but the number is not as important of an aspect now. The hope and the healing is our goal, that through exploring your story, writing your story, and folding your story into the crane, that you too will find hope and healing and some type of understanding and new benefits and growth from your story. I will also need volunteers to help to string the cranes. And in closing, I just want to thank you again for joining us. Stories from the Bibles have given Christians shape and understanding and promise for our lives, giving us deeper understandings and benefits as we grow. Stories are who we are. Our stories give shape to our world. How we view our stories, learn from our stories, and move through our stories is paramount. Kevin Klink showed us how stories can connect us to find commonality in other cultures, clarity and humor, and most of all, healing in our stories. Kristin Bransford shared Dr. Pennebaker's research of exploring our stories through expressive writing practice and compassionately caring for ourselves as we process our stories. Today, Chris walked us through viewing our stories through the lens of benefit finding and savoring some of those benefits to find positive aspects in our story, lessons to shape our future, our relationship, and our faith. I introduced the practice of lament, encouraging us to turn to God, share our stories of disappointment, sorrows, through complaint, asking for guidance and help, and trusting in God's path for us, even though we may not see that path with any clarity at this time. Finally, we folded the words of our stories into the origami crane of hope and healing to display growth and exploration, and possibly acceptance and understanding and healing. Kevin, Chris, and I hope you have found the tonic to break through some of the ominous clouds that may engulf you. In your stories, find rays of sunshine, possible rainbows, and the love of Christ. May our difficult, sorrowful, disappointing stories move us to be wiser by telling our stories, writing our stories, journaling our stories, or praying our stories. If you want to get a hold of me and send me your story, you can send it to spath@spdlc.org, which you can see up on the monitor right now. And we thank you for joining us. I hope you find blessings in exploring your stories. I just wanted to share one thing about peace that Kevin Kling, when I asked him about the peace that he seems to exude as he talks, he answered with this: one thing nice about a presentation is that I get to choose what parts of my life to present. So I think I come across more together and at peace than I am. That said, I feel it's important in these talks to focus on things that have helped me through my difficulties. The peace comes from help and more help. I've been so lucky to be surrounded by supportive partner, friends, and professionals who are on the journey with me. I read a while back, a way to elevate your spirit was to think of things, even simple things, that you're grateful for, much like Chris talked to us about today in Savoring. It really helps me to use those as examples in my talks, but it's an ongoing process. So as we finally close today and find our blessings in our stories, I would like to close with two prayers. I will close with "The Lord is night," and then I will repeat the prayer that I had last week, a prayer of letting go that I did find out was written by our pastor here at St. Philip the Deacon, Pastor Cheryl Matheson, for a Bible art journaling class. So, Lord, it is night. Lord, it is night. The night is for stillness. Let us be still in the presence of God. It is night after a long day. What has been done has been done. What has not been done has not been done. Let it be. The night is dark. Let our fears of the darkness of the world and of our own lives rest in you. The night is quiet. Let the quietness of your peace enfold us, all dear to us and all who have no peace. The night heralds the dawn. Let us look expectantly to a new day, new joys, new possibilities. In your name we pray. Amen. And I'll close with Pastor Cheryl Matheson's prayer, a prayer of letting go. Dear God, in this moment, I let go. I let go of my worries and my anxieties, my thoughts and my to-dos. I do so because when I let go, I'm able to receive. When my hands are formed into tight fists, when I hang on tight control, when I close off my heart and my spirit, I cannot receive your blessings for me. So right now, I let go to receive these blessings. I receive your loving presence around me and within me. I receive your peace that passes all understanding. I receive the relationships that surround me today. I let go. I trust you. I let go and trust in the small, still voice. I gladly receive this gift of letting go and letting you lead and guide me. Amen. Thank you for joining us again for the Restore 3 series. Blessings to all of you.